Will you be the one to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment System? The one to play with Rob, the extraordinary video robot, batteries not included. He helps you tackle even the toughest challenge. Will you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt or action-packed Hogan's Alley and high-flying Kung Fu, each sold separately? Will you be the one to experience the Nintendo Entertainment System? Comes with Rob, Zapper, Control Deck, 2 controllers, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt.
On July 15th, 1983, Nintendo released the Famicom, or Family Computer, in Japan. It would go on to sell gangbusters, and the company would quickly become the dominant force in the video game industry within the country. But Nintendo's goals were aiming much higher than just winning over their native land, as 2 years later, they would release the console in the United States under the name of the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was done so to differentiate it from the video game consoles of the crash. You see, Nintendo's plan was to attempt to single-handedly revive the video game market from the brink, which would also lead to them replacing Atari as the big name in gaming after their fall from grace. But this plan was not guaranteed to work, as weary and fed-up consumers could have easily ignored or seen through this attempt at Nintendo trying to differentiate the system from the failures of the past. Another part of this plan was to sell the console with a gun accessory called the Zapper and a robot named Robotic Operating Buddy, or Rob for short. This would all begin to go down on October 18th, 1985, with the system having a limited test release in New York City. This test market would end up succeeding, and 1 year later, on September 27th, 1986, the system would be released nationwide. And in the end, just like in Japan, the console would go on to be a ginormous hit, allowing Nintendo to not only ride their wave of success, but also capitalize on it. By releasing a portable console called the Game Boy on April 21st, 1989, as well as a new and improved home system twice as powerful as the NES, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or SNES, on November 21st, 1990. Because of all this, Nintendo would end up controlling 85% of the video game market, with the only company that had a fighting chance being Sega, who, despite their own success and being a direct and aggressive rival, wouldn't be able to dethrone Nintendo from their monopoly over the whole of the gaming sphere. But regardless of the company's over-encompassing control, thanks to Nintendo, video games as a whole were revived and weren't going anywhere, and it seemed that Nintendo's dominance would be permanent.
転がっているのがものすごくリアルになったりします。だから今までのゲーム機と新しいのを買うわけですからね、触ってて違う感じのものを作りたいというのが任天堂の考えなんです。
スーパーマリオ64ですか、
はい、
歌唱ですか、これについてですね、ちょっと詳しく、まず聞いておこうと思うんですけど、
はい、3次元のアニメーションを作りたい。でしかもその3次元のアニメーション、人形劇のようなものを自分で動かしたいということが夢でですね、でやっとこのハードでそれができるようになったっていう。
It was now the mid-90s, and Nintendo was sitting pretty as they continued to dominate with not only their home console releases and their successful game series, such as Mario, Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and many more, but also by conquering the portable market with their Game Boy. But as the years went on, the question on everyone's mind was, what was next for the gaming industry? What will the future bring? These questions arose from technology's rapid advancements, as it was time for video games to make their big leap and go from 2D to 3D. Some companies had their own plans to jump ahead of the curve by either playing it safe with releasing a 32-bit system, selling add-ons for their already successful console, or even trying their luck with creating a 64-bit console before their competitors could. As for Nintendo, they stood firm and waited until they were ready. The company would develop what they had in store for the next generation, which would gain the codename Project Reality for their home console and VR32 for their next big portable release. All eyes of the video game world were now on Nintendo as they waited with bated breath to see what they had in store for their vision of the future of gaming.
It came from the third dimension, with its own brain, its own voice, its own legs. There's only one problem. It needs your eyes. Virtual Boy. See it now in 3D.
So after much anticipation, the day that every gamer waited for finally had arrived, as Nintendo's first console release into the new era of 3D gaming would finally be graced upon the world. On this day, Nintendo prepared for what they had expected to be yet another success story to add on to their infallible console lineup. But rather than bring in continued riches on July 21st, 1995, instead, Nintendo's descent into darkness would officially begin with their first major failure, as this was the release date of what would turn out to be the company's worst console ever, the Virtual Boy. The system that had been claimed to be something that could not only play 3D games but also be a sort of literal virtual reality machine, would quickly become infamous for its horrendous red and black color scheme that caused people to get headaches, needing 6 AA batteries to run that it would eat through in only just 4 hours, and despite being marketed as a portable console, it was not portable at all. All these mounting issues would lead to the system being quickly swept under the rug by Nintendo, as it would only be available on the market for less than a year, leading to the console only housing a pitiful library of 22 games when all was said and done. But this blunder couldn't have happened at a worse time, as the worst of hardships for the company was to hit, as this was also the year that Nintendo would gain a fierce new competitor entering the world of gaming in the tech giant company who was responsible for revolutionizing the music world with their Walkman, Sony, as they would release their first console, the PlayStation, on December 3rd, 1994, with the system going global the next year. Sony themselves, ironically only having gotten to the gaming industry because of Nintendo stabbing them in the back, which is something I will talk about more in depth later, but regardless I bring it up because Nintendo had unintentionally created their newest and biggest rival. But these speed bumps weren't going to bother Nintendo. I mean, they had successfully dealt with rivals before by dealing them crushing blows time and time again, and although the Virtual Boy had flopped, Nintendo had a new console ready to exit the bullpen, come up to bat, and rectify their previous mistake.